Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today. I never thought I would be speaking to in a place like this about this subject ever in my life. But I'll give it a try. I think like death in our community, and you learn about death when you're young. My father had passed away when I was 5. The only memory I had of him was in his casket. And of course, you are trying to wake your father, and it's very difficult. But I remember that reaction as a 5-year-old. That's my only memory of my father. So that kind of, I don't know if you call it trauma. I guess it is trauma. I don't know if we think about it so much that way as a people. So my grandmother was one of the first chiefs, female chiefs in Canada, and she told me a story. She died when she was 86, and when she was 8 years old, she used to go with her mother and prepare the body for burial. They didn't have an undertaker, so they prepared the body, cleaned the body, and burned whatever needed to be burned, and it just prepared because. So death wasn't hidden from us. It was always constantly there. It's natural as a part of life, as natural as being born, that this day will come. And so I looked at it as, of course, in my community, we had a lot of tragedy, different kinds of tragedy, lots of deaths. I also witnessed a lot of elders that passed on. I got to sit with them. I got to hear the death rattle. So you know the stage is very difficult. Man, I can go on for hours about stories that are attached to people passing on in my life. But it's important to bear witness to this, that they know that you're there. And also, like I was brought up as Catholic, and so burials were, of course, Catholic, and they were virtually the same. And what I found over years of going to funerals is that slowly, that practice is slowly changing. There's tobacco introduced to the ceremony, to a Catholic ceremony, eagle feathers, and once I witnessed drumming in the church, which is incredibly, was amazing to me. So, but that kind of goes forward and backwards. Like one priest is liberal to the next one is not. So that kind of wanes. But I saw a trend over the years that more ceremony was creeping into this scenario. And there was a longing because this funeral doesn't fit all. It doesn't fit everybody. People have different beliefs. Maybe they're afraid to express them. but you see it eventually coming out slowly. And so now, I went to a lodge ceremony. For 7 years, I had sweat lodges at my house. And my grandmother always wanted me to go back to church. Of course, I never did. But in the end, she was a very liberal-minded 86-year-old lady that told me, well, you don't have to go back to church as long as you believe in something. So I appreciated my grandmother. She was not typical that way. She had an open mind right to the very end. And she was willing to go to the sweat lodge, but she was too ill by that time. But one night was a very strange night in that she was very ill and they thought she wouldn't make it through the night, which happened almost every other month with her. She came back so many times, we didn't believe her anymore. So we heard she was very ill, so we had sweat lodge ceremonies for her. And we went to see her, and then her people from the church were there. So in the same place, we had the church in one room and the sweat lodge people in the other room, which was amazing that she brought this together. She brought this together, and I thought, wow, this is an amazing moment, a powerful moment. So, yeah, I see lots of tragedies, and it's very difficult. Death is very difficult, and I know that just talking or being with someone is really, you don't have to say anything even, just to be there as support as they know that. And you get through it together. So, and then I think our ceremonies also, for me, changed everything. It made it opened a door that I've never witnessed before, or sensations about, or how I felt about this. That we had a connection to the other side. Now, I do a song with my band called Thundermakers, and we do When Owls Call as a spoken word piece. I've done this for a few years now. So, in the song, there is a friend of mine at the museum researched this piece of Jesuit writing that he found from the 16th century, and it was about this Mi'kmaq child that had passed. And they buried this child near a well-worn path. And the reason for that was that so that the spirit of this child would be nourished by the women walking on that path. So that is saying that death is not final, that we are still engaged. They're engaged with us, and we are engaged with them. So to me, that was how Mi'kmaq thought of a little bit of how they thought of the passing over. So we'll do a little bit of my book here. I don't know how organized we are here, but can anybody yeah, here we go. Okay. Yeah, that's the beginning of it. We could go on to that. It's my signature. So the reason I did the owl is because there was a story I read like many years ago in the 70s about When Owls Call Your Name. It was about a priest that had cancer, and the bishop sent him to a native community to learn about death. He knew very little about life, but he had to learn about death now. And that's what this is about. When the owl calls your name, that's when the Creator wants you to come home. It's just a messenger. So I use that, just that thought, and I'm not trying to recreate the book or use someone else's story. I just use the metaphor as the owl as a messenger to tell you that the Creator wants you back. And so you have warning. Okay, let's have another page. So they hear owls are learning your name. So there's owls that are learning names. And when they know your name, they will come to find you. If you can keep going, please. And they will find you wherever you are. And it will sit patiently and wait for that last breath, that last heartbeat. And then the spirit rises. Can we, keep going. The spirit rises and follows the owl back to the Creator. And so the journey begins. You're going back the way you came here. The same, and I say there's signposts there that guide you to this place, and they also guide you back from this place. So we follow the owl. And it's a journey that we see. We see the earth behind us, below us. We're passing through and going to the stars, to the cosmic, following the owl. And now we see that person at the bottom with a body above, lifting the body up. And so we have motifs like whales, and all the relatives are considered, we're related to everything that lives. So keep on going here. So I talk about the signpost, and then we'll guide you back to the Creator. So keep going, please. Great. And you're welcomed by the ancient ones, the ones that come before you. So, okay, another page, please. So here's where the ancient ones sit, and there is a place waiting for you to sit with them. So it ties it all together. But what I want to do with this book is not so much say that this is the prescribed way you do things or you think of things, or you make your own personal roadmap. You customize your own way to deal with this. This is how you do it. You feel comfortable with yourself. There's no prescribed way. I knew a woman that was an older woman. She was in her 70s, and she was not native. And when she was a little girl, I don't know how old she was, very, very young, probably 5 or 6. And they sheltered her from her mother's own death, her mother's death. Wouldn't let her go to the funeral. So that woman was in her 70s, almost 80. And that scar remained all her life. She never said goodbye to her mother. It was hidden from her. She couldn't take part in it. You can only imagine what that's like, that they wouldn't let you go to your own mother's funeral. And somehow life goes on, but it did go on for her because that scar remained there all her life, as fresh as it was the day before. So really and I know people that are very powerful when they're in this process of dying, that are very strong and will hold on. My niece had dialysis for 14 years before she died. She was 27 when she died. She had kidney disease. And we took her to IWK and emergency and so on. And the doctor thought she has very little time left. So she asked, she wanted to be home for one more day. So it was a big problem because legally no one wanted to be responsible for transporting someone that dies on the way. So lawyers had to be called, we had to put up a fight to get her back home for that day. But we won that fight. And she came home for that day, and there was a long lineup of people who wanted to see her. So she stayed. She had her last 24 hours at home. She died to the minute, almost, of that 24 hours. And while she was still alive, she asked for me, and I lived next door, so I went over. She died 10 minutes later, but she was waiting for me to come. So they're aware of everything that's going on. And we started our ceremonies then, we started Sweat Lodge. In fact, it's just the reason we put a Sweat Lodge up. We didn't know what to do, so that's all we did. We had an elder come and we built a Sweat Lodge, and that started our Sweat Lodge and our ceremonies. And it's going strong to this day. I had to start the lodge at my house for 7 years. My brother has it now. It is strong and functioning, and it is good medicine for people that have things that are very hard to deal with. But you go in the Sweat Lodge not praying for things, you pray for others. You don't pray for yourself. So in that way, you may get what you want. But the intent is not for you, yourself. It's for someone else. So, but I'll answer questions if anyone has questions. Okay, well, yes, please.
It's not a question, just a comment.
Okay.
I had the opportunity of being Sweat Lodge twice with the RCMP.
Yes.
And it was a holy moment for me as a Baptist. So
Yes.
I just really found it respectful in terms of holding space. I found it respectful in terms of everyone was equal. I found it respectful in that we listened and we're quiet, and we're given a voice if we wanted to. So it was just an incredible experience, and I would say if you have an opportunity to be at a Sweat Lodge, just wear something that you can sweat in.
But I think, like if you're in a Sweat Lodge and you pray for someone that's passing or just passed on, and you're there because you're praying that they find their way to their Creator, that they find their way back. And once they're there, they know everything. They know everything, and they look at us and they support us. So it's important that connection is made, and that's one way that we keep that tradition alive. We brought it back, and it's strong now in the community. Has a lot of positive functions. People with addiction go in there, and all kinds of people. Where there's grief, there's illness, there's just support for a family. Now, in what we do in Millbrook, in my community, when someone dies, it started out as a few items of someone would be sold to help the family deal with the funeral. But now it's grown to be quite big, and it's online, and it's a lot of money. But that tells you about the generosity in your community. When someone that is not even well-known or even is not famous or even is not even known well in their community, people will give them, support the family. That always, to me, is always it's uplifting when I see that. When you see a community pitch in and help, and they do that individually for everyone, the same. That's why I know the community is a healthy, good community. When this time comes, everybody's there. So I think really that's all I have to say today. Well, sure. Oh, yeah, except there's more questions.
Thank you so much, and for sharing your book with us. And I'm just curious how you found yourself kind of in this role and what led you to create this. And do you see yourself as the owl, metaphorically?
Well, the owl, it really was that as an artist, you're an observer, you notice things, and that's your job as an artist. You kind of, you're a witness to everything, and you kind of make sense or make art, do something with something you've seen. And I've noticed that, like, the burials were transforming on their own. Why is that? So that was the idea. Obviously, people weren't satisfied with the way it was. Now, I've been to a funeral mass that was never mentioned who was deceased. Not even just by name, but nothing said about that person. And to me, it's a celebration of this person. And so that's why I really was kind of upset at that it should be about this person's life. So that's one of the things. But that's when somebody passes, it affects, of course, the family, but the community is also affected, especially in a small community. When I grew up, my community was very small. We had about 30 houses. So I knew everyone in each house. They were coming and going, and when they passed and when they got married, when a baby was born. I knew everybody intimately. We're all together in the same boat. And so we were very united. Now, Truro has a couple of thousand people, maybe. You can't tell that Millbrook from Truro. You can't even tell if you're in Millbrook. It looks the same as Truro. So it's changed radically that way. But in a way that when a funeral occurs, we come together. And that hasn't changed. And that's something that I appreciate. But I think the ceremony is important because I think that's why we have ceremonies, to help us through this, to make sense of this, to honor the person. If the world started all over again, we would make our own new ceremonies and start all over again. I'm sure of it. So anyway, thank you for coming. I hope this helped. Thank you very much.